Hello and welcome to Coronacrisis. My name is David Haythornthwaite and I'm the chairman of AFC Fylde. And over the next few weeks and months, I'm hopefully going to take you through what goes on behind the scenes of a non-league football team at times like this. We're going to discuss all the issues regarding behind the scenes, the players, off-field staff, all the things that contribute to the running of the club, and how we're dealing with the issues that have been thrown at us on a daily and weekly basis, so that it gives you a really good insight to the club and the running of clubs in general. So I look forward to you joining me on this journey.
Okay, David, thanks once again for joining us as we look behind the scenes at AFC Fylde. We will look to speak about certainly some issues in the upcoming sections where we look at recent news that's come out about the league, and we've got multiple questions on that. So we'd like to begin, if we can, with you feel there's been a lack of communication across the league. It's something we've touched on before, but certainly with Wednesday's news about the league being extended possibly.
Yeah, sounds like we just had one of the workmen started banging outside as we started the conversation, but let's try and work through it, Adam. I feel this week that things have started, shall we say, to move on behind the scenes, and that we aren't being consulted. We as chairman and owners of the clubs involved aren't being consulted on those issues. So I decided that I'd write to Michael Tattersall, who's the chief exec, and lay out number one, my concerns, and number two, some suggestions of how maybe they overcome the issues that they've currently got, and that they're trying to solve, or what I feel are the issues that we've got as a league and as clubs. So it was, I think, probably quite obviously shared it with you this morning, and it's quite hard hitting, but I think that we've got to that stage, and what I'm always been concerned about, and I've always been focused on, is that we were told from the outset that we would be given options to vote on, and the key word is vote on. We are, after all, in a democracy still. Options to vote on about how the season is finished. And at the moment, I feel there's a little bit, for want of a better word, a bit of skullduggery going on behind the scenes, which I'll come to in a minute. So I wrote to Michael Tattersall. As always, I copied all the fellow chairmen in the league, so that we got absolute transparency. I don't believe in sort of having secret meetings or sending secret letters or emails. I think this is a very important issue. It should be out in the open, and everybody's absolutely clear on what my view is anyway. It's never going to obviously match up with everybody else's. I wouldn't expect it to, and wouldn't be normal that it did. But I want everyone to understand kind of where I'm coming from. And I think importantly, as I've said all the way through these interviews, Adam, I'm trying to wear that hat, first of all, for the integrity of the league, and the integrity of the pyramid, because that's, I think if we go back to the first interview I did, what we're on version 20 now, or a long time ago, doesn't it? But I talked about then that the beauty of the English game, the fantastic thing about English football, Scottish football as well, is that we have a pyramid system, so that anyone, be it me, be it Gary Neville buying Salford City, be it the guy in Germany who owns Hoffenheim, in there they've got a similar system. You can live your dream. You can start with a very small club and go through the leagues and go all the way to the Premier League, as Wigan did. So once that dream, once that opportunity disappears, promotion, relegation, Obviously, you can only have promotion if you have relegation. Once that disappears, then I've always felt so strongly then the dream for most people disappears. That's what we all aspire to. And, football, it's a great game because we can be relegated. I've often said you're better to be, because I watched Blackpool all those years, I always said you're actually better to be top of the third than bottom of the second. It's a lot more fun, isn't it? You win in, you've got promotion to look forward to. So you can go from absolute despair in football, having relegation, but waking up knowing August the 3rd, new season, here we go, we're going to get back promoted. And all that excitement starts again. But if there was no promotion, what would there be to get excited about? Nothing. So that's what's great about the game. And that integrity of the game is so important. And I'm trying desperately when I make a point is not to feel as though I'm being biased towards Fylde, because it's easy to be biased towards Fylde. It's easy to wear a Fylde hat. But the pyramid has enabled me more than anyone else probably to live that dream. And why should I not? Why shouldn't somebody else in 10 years or 50 years time not be able to do what I've done? So that's I want to get that point across when I'm making suggestions. I try and look at it in a rational way. And that's why I've been disappointed of the total lack of communication. When I say total lack of communication, we haven't had anything as clubs, as chairman, from our league for a month, any form of communication. And I was so disappointed yesterday when I'm driving home and I get a text from someone say, I see that they've extended the league. And I go, well, I know they've extended the league, because of course I'm thinking they're talking about League 1 or League 2 and, to the playoffs. I said, no, it's National League, David. And we knew nothing about that. We had not been consulted on that. We knew nothing about that. So it then transpires that was decision to ask, and transpires came out was that our league executive, our chairman, whoever it was, had asked the FA permission to extend the season so that we could potentially have playoffs. And I was gobsmacked because, I say none of us knew anything about it. None of us been consulted. And it's as I wrote in my letter to Michael Tattersall, I said, the point I made was that we were asked to vote. We were asked to vote, do we want to end the season? And then we were given assurances that if we did end the season, we would then be given options of how we wanted to end the season. And those were clearly at the time what had happened in other things. Was it null and void? Was it points per game? There's various options. We weren't asked, did we want to continue playing the season effectively through the playoffs? Because that's not ending the season. If the question is, do you want to end the season now, but we'll still have playoffs? I would have very much argued at that time, well, if we're going to have playoffs for staying up, and of course the argument is, well, it's really, really important we have playoffs to go back to the integrity, then I would sort of say, yes, it is important, but in this exceptional circumstance, if you're going to have playoffs for who goes up, you should have playoffs in this exceptional circumstance for who goes down. Because Ebbsfleet, ourselves, were on a great run. Other clubs were falling, going down. 9 games to go, 27 points. So either let's not have it. I think both are ludicrous, by the way. And I've written this in my letter. I'm not suggesting now we should have playoffs for those, but we certainly shouldn't be talking about playoffs. It's absolutely crazy. So communication on all fronts has been really poor, and I wrote in actual fact on beginning of April, first week of April, to the league, asking them to clarify a number of points, but I also asked them, can we have A, copies of board meeting notes, and B, can we have copies of who was actually at that meeting? Now, that may seem a bit odd to some people watching, but in normal circumstances, then unless there was something controversial, I wouldn't ask to see a copy of those board meetings, because they do a lot of times discuss clubs and personnel, and those, of course, should remain private. But in a situation like this, where decisions are made, life-changing decisions are being made for clubs, then that needs to be transparent. I talked about transparency earlier. Why would you not have a board meeting of the clubs that effectively they work for us to the board, they're paid by us, yeah, and they wouldn't exist without us, they wouldn't have a job without us, then that affects all our lives, either going up or going down. Why would you have a cloak of secrecy surrounding that? Why would you not communicate? There's a lot of really clever guys who own businesses and own football clubs who've got a wealth of knowledge in our league, and why are we not consulting and talking to them instead of having the same old people discussing like a private club, like the Masons. Not one if anybody's, my grandfather was a Mason, so I hope he's not turning his grave now me saying that. But it isn't like the Masons, a secret club. This is a football club where everybody's involved, fans, committees, owners. It matters to everybody. So we need to have more transparency from them. We need to have more communication from them. We need to have more dialogue between us. I mean, one of the things that I found, Adam, is something I've never used in my life till this crisis. When people used to say to me, David, let's have, let's do something on over the internet. I forgot what they used to call it. What did they used to call it before Zoom came in and Teams and
Skype.
What? Skype. Sorry, Skype. Yeah, Adam. So somebody said, let's have a Skype meeting. And I'd go, I am not doing Skype meetings. I hate Skype meetings. I believe in face-to-face communication. Still do, by the way. But what I found is it's a wonderful tool. It's a wonderful tool. It's Teams. I've been able to talk exactly as it's called. Great name for it. I've been able to have meetings every Monday with all senior managers, because it's a crisis. So every Monday we catch up. I've got my managers in Spain, Singapore, Germany, Italy, everywhere. We're all able to get on one thing and talk and team and see each other, which makes it great. I mean, I know there's another one for I think called Zoom, isn't there? Which you can use as well for different kind of meetings. And that technology, which I would have poo-pooed in the past, is fantastic. And I'll definitely won't get away from what I believe in, which is face-to-face, but we'll certainly start using that technology a lot more. My point is, it's easy to use that technology, and therefore there's no excuse about that communication. They could have got all the chairmen on. In actual fact, I know from talking to some other chairmen, that's how they do it in League Two. That's how they do it at League One. In actual fact, when they get the EFL, I think they put 60, 70 clubs on at the same time. Now, as everyone points out, it's not perfect because you have to wait your term and people are trying to interrupt. But if they can do it, we haven't had one of those meetings, Adam, in our league. One. No one's even suggested it at a level. So we're back to bad communication, lack of transparency, and again, total lack of leadership. And I've told Michael that, in my letter, and again, I'm sure he's not very happy at me being critical of him, but sometimes you just have to call a spade, and that's how it is. So disappointed. Just before we sat down, I got an email from Brian Barwick, who is the chairman of our league. Mike's chief exec, and Brian Barwick has just sent me a short email say, David, we'll get a communication from Michael after today's meeting. So look, may have hit home, it may have resonated somewhere. I really suspect it's more CYA. For those who don't know what CYA is, I don't know if it's cover your ass, and I suspect that's what it is. Anyway, let's hope it isn't. Let's hope it's a genuine attempt to, shall we say, get an open line of communication going.
I think you've been very clear on that. It's just important. We touched on it a few weeks ago. Can you just give a reminder of what we've actually voted for or been asked to vote for so far?
Well, the two things we were asked to vote for was, one, did we want to end the season? And that was a unanimous vote. And the second thing we were asked to vote on is, did we want to have playoffs? Now, at the time, in answering that question, it was, I suppose I didn't take too much notice of it, because it was, to me, almost kind of redundant question. Is, oh, well, we kind of answered that question because we've answered, so why is he seeking clarification on that? And then when I heard that, everybody I spoke to, there's no point having playoffs, etc. It's, season. Then when I heard that we'd in actual fact got a situation, and I may have covered it earlier, but what happened was the vote was clear that everybody agreed that there shouldn't be playoffs. Now, my representative, Sid Blank, he's a Barrow chair, representative of Germany. He's the secretary of Barrow. I think I've said before, lovely guy, Sid. I talk to him. That's what you're supposed to do. Talk to your league representative. They go to the meeting, and so represent your views. And I think each representative has 3 or 4 clubs they represent. I'm not sure who else Sid represents, but he looks after Fylde. And we've sort of made those. I've made those views to Sid clear about that. I'm concerned is that we've had this vote, and yet they seem to have ignored it. Now, what Sid told me, and Sid's pretty open guy. He said, well, when we were going to originally put the vote out, what many on the committee, and I'm going to come to this conflict of interest later on today, Adam, is that many on the committee wanted to just ask the people in the promotion places, or just outside the promotion places, did they want playoffs? Well, if you ask that question, you know what you're going to get. But it isn't about them. It's about the league. And so they chose to ask the league, which was the right thing to do, but then they got the answer they didn't want. Or the people sitting on the committee didn't want. I'm not sure who, but they didn't like the answer. So therefore they said, well, actual fact, when we looked at all the answers, most of the people in the playoff promotion want it, and the people who aren't in the promotion don't want playoffs. So as it doesn't really concern them, we should ignore that. We should ignore that vote, and we should just really think about the people who've, voted for the playoffs. So I think I said a couple of interviews ago, that's like ignoring the referendum, isn't it? 48% of people didn't want to leave the EU. Well, okay, we get all that. We've been through that. 52% did. That's how democracy works. And that's how democracy has to work. So very, very disappointing, because why ask us to vote in the first place? Why don't you just make up your mind?